Hello, Hassan Mouse Reviews is here, and well, I'm reviewing. Pretty sure you all know what this is. Yep, we're reviewing Jetsons The Movie, not Jetsons the TV show, Jetsons the Movie. And you're thinking, oh, I'm probably reviewing the one of many, the time where they crossed over with WWE. No. It's the 1990 theatrical movie. It was basically a wrap-up to the 80s revival of the show. Now, let me just start off by saying this. I love Hanna-Barbera. Some of their shows are amazing. In fact, they're the pioneers of TV animation. What Disney did in films, Hanna-Barbera did for TV. So many legendary shows. Yogi Bear, The Flintstones, Wacky Races, Scooby-Doo. You've got so many of them, and try to emulate what the success they have of the Flintstones with a modern Stone Age family. They created what the modern future family would be with the Jetsons, and they only lasted one season in their original format, but they got a revival in the 80s, and eventually through that revival they got a theatrical movie released in 1990. And well, jeez. Oh, this is going to be a tough one to get. And while Hanna-Barbera did make theatrical movies with Yogi Bear and the Flintstones, and also made the first Charlotte's Web movie, the animated one, this did not go well. Ooh. In fact, I don't know why. This movie, you wonder how Bill Hanna and Joseph Barbera even directed this. This is lifeless. This isn't up to their quality. This could be as bad as, say, some of their live action movies based on their cartoons. So yeah, this is a disgrace to the Jetsons. And I'm not a big fan of Jetsons. I prefer stuff like I'm still more the Flintstone. I still am fans of Flintstones. I like the Yogi Bear stuff, or most of the spin-offs, Wacky Races and Tom and Jerry. Of course, whatever Scooby-Doo I grew up with. But this, I only watched a little bit of Jetsons, but I liked what I saw. But this movie is bad. And let me start the story. And I'm just going to basically sum up with this. George Jetson gets a promotion and becomes vice president of Mr. Spacely's new power plant that he's got out in space. So he moves his family to the new facility, to where the new facility is, where it's being attacked by mysterious aliens. And George is determined to find out what's going on to save his job, while Judy falls in love with a new boyfriend after she got dumped by her previous boyfriend, who she only knew for one day. And Elroy's trying to fight to determine whether he's the best against a robot living next door to him, but they eventually sort out and become friends. That's basically all I can say. But this story is something you see in any sitcom, and even the Jetsons probably made fun of it, even though I don't remember if they did. In fact, honestly, I think this feels a lot similar to an episode of some of the stuff that the Flintstones did. I think there's one episode in the show where Fred moved the whole thing, Willow, and Pebbles up to a higher state apartment for a better life, and yeah, that's basically what you get. It's similar to that. And what makes it worse is they have an environmental message tacked in. Well, it's probably one of the first movies to do that. It's not good. I wouldn't. It's not as a massive part of the movie as, say, Pocahontas or Ferngully. It is even more annoying because it's forced straight in. And that's the way they end off the movie. And I mean, yes, there are environmental themes within the Jetsons. I mean, the fact that the Earth is covered in smog, so that people have to live on high, up in the sky, I guess sort of relates to it. But still, it's not good. It's really forced. And what also doesn't, there's also, well, there's plenty. And even with the story, just the environmental message, they had other stuff in it. I mean, there are songs in this. This isn't a musical, but they include the songs in it, and people just act like it's part of it. In fact, there's a scene with one of the songs, the song playing right now, "You and Me," that has a completely different animation style. In fact, it's could almost be considered its own thing. And then there's the characters. And these characters are not the same as what they are in the show. George is just... if you don't know the Jetsons, you'll think George Jetson is just a pathetic, selfish loser who is completely full of himself just because of the new position he's got. And yeah, that's really what you get from this. Elroy is confusing because he goes, at first he's jealous of his dad for missing out on his game, but he's trying to compete against the robot living next to him, and he's trying to save the day, and he's trying to advance the plot, but it doesn't go anywhere with his robotic rival, Rudy 2, I think his name is. Yeah, I think that's it. Mr. Spacely is portrayed as the villain, and I mean, I know he had selfish agendas in the show, but he's not. You don't think of him as a villain in this, really, as much in the show. And the fact he's forced into being the villain is kind of tasteless. Rosie and Judy Jetson barely show up to the end, as does Astro, and the other characters outside of basically filler characters. Yeah, they're in it, but they're not. And then there's Judy. Judy. She is absolutely horrible in this. I'm telling you. All she does is do space puns, whine about her failed relationship with a singer she only met once, and just then meets another guy. She falls straight over heels with him, and she is completely annoying, and further compounded by the fact that they swapped her voice actor at the last minute with popular pop singer at the time, Tiffany, who gives an absolutely horrible performance. In fact, she sings all the songs. In fact, Judy doesn't sing it. It's just Tiffany's voice in the background. Yeah, so it's not good. And then we get in the other voice actors. I mean, this is the last movie to feature the voices of George O'Halloran and Mel Blanc, two legends in voice acting. But in fact, they died before they can finish their lines. So Jeff Bergman, another well-known voice actor who still was around, had to fill in for them. And I will say, the lines he did have to fill in for Halloran and Blanc, he did a pretty flawless job, and you can't really tell the difference. In fact, I don't even know which scenes he filled in for. But regardless, they are not as good as what they once were. In fact, you can definitely tell they're on their deathbeds. I mean, Halloran was blind at this point when he was during the last few years of his life, so he couldn't even read the lines. They had to spell it out for him. And Blanc, I think he could only record on his hospital bed. Yeah. So that's some problem. Yeah. And even when you take that out, yeah, the characters are not similar to they are in the show. And then we get to the animation, and well, Well, it is a step up from the show and the quality Hanna-Barbera is known for with their TV animation. I would even probably say it's better than something like Hey There, It's Yogi Bear and Man Called Flintstone and Charlotte's Web. But the problem is, at least with Yogi Bear and Flintstones, when they had their theatrical movies, they still kept to the style, the movement of their show. Yes, it was barely any, but in a way, it matched the style of Hanna-Barbera. At least and Charlotte's Web, it did have a bit of movement, but it was an original movie that they did. It wasn't based on any of their shows, so it made sense why they could give it a bit more of a step up. But when you look at this, well, the characters look the same, and I will admit some of the backgrounds and stuff and like that can look good, but the characters' movements and is very jittery. They move around so much, and it feels very unnatural. And even the animation itself gives them a very rubberish look. And while it is similar to some of the stuff in the shows, in Hanna-Barbera shows, I would say mostly starting from Yogi Bear, because okay, I don't really think the Flintstones had it, and maybe nor do I think Wacky Races, but this is very rubbery, and it feels more like you're watching a toy. They look very toy-like. And they also have CGI in this, and well, this is probably one of the first, and this was around the time where CGI was just getting introduced in anime movies. Yeah, it's dated and it's simple, but you know, the show was simple, so I guess it fits. But is there anything else I like? Well, I did say I don't mind the animation at times. And I will admit, the opening rendition of the Jetsons theme with the opening is the best part of the movie. But regardless, as I said before, how could this is the biggest question of this is how is this really something Bill Hanna and Joseph Barbera directed? Because this is not good. This is a bad movie, and definitely one of the worst anime movies I've ever seen. I mean, it's not the worst. I mean, I definitely think Planes and Dougal will remain upright as the worst for me. But it's definitely right up there for the fact that I guess it ruined the original show in many ways. How could this be a part of the legacy of Hanna-Barbera this, and based on their characters and everything? It's a major disappointment and a big failure. That's why it's bad. I'm going to give us a 3 out of 10 Hanna stars. Yeah, and it deserves it, really. And I basically say don't watch this if you can't really figure that out. Yeah, don't watch it. If you're going to watch a movie based on a Hanna-Barbera show that is actually animated by them, stick with Hey There, It's Yogi Bear and A Man Called Flintstone as the live action stuff. Or even see some of the Hanna-Barbera TV movies that they made in the late 80s, early 90s. Late 80s, early 90s, yeah, that's about it. Because there are a lot, actually. In fact, you know what? I'm actually going to review one as my next review to show you how much better it is, even though it may be a bit of an acquired taste. It's not going to be Jetsons, which, to be honest, I don't think they had one, which was Jetsons Meet the Flintstones. But the one I'm going to do is Flintstones related. So yeah, that'll be the next review. It's a Hanna-Barbera TV movie based on the Flintstones. But in the meantime, Hazard Reviews is out. And I'll catch you later for my next review. And well, let's just hope if the Jetsons ever get another movie, it doesn't end up as bad as this. Ciao.